It was only a week ago when we got the news about the latest Disney Star Wars failure, the Galactic Starcruiser Hotel, despite the fact that it had only been open around a year with its massive price point. All the mainstream media trying to push this as hard as they could. It's closing down. It's a complete and total disaster for Disney. From the very beginning, fans said this doesn't look like Star Wars. This doesn't feel like Star Wars. It's set during an era in the sequel trilogy that fans, quite frankly, didn't want. And we knew it was going to fail. And now we got the news last week that it has indeed failed. They are closing it down. But now that we're getting more information about this, it gets even worse for Disney Star Wars, because not only were they ready to just basically say, hey, we admit failure, we admit that no one wanted the sequel trilogy, let's do something else. Let's do it to Mandalorian. Let's retheme it as a Mandalorian hotel. That was soundly rejected by Bob Iger and Disney. Disney rejected the Mandalorian upgrade to revive Disney Star Wars luxury hotel. Apparently, Disney didn't believe the Mandalorian was the way to save its struggling Star Wars Galactic Starcruiser. Despite only opening it in March of last year, low occupancy and a lack of repeat business plagued Disney's latest innovation, leading to a company-imposed cancellations, discounts, and now closure. Remember, there was nobody booking these things. They had to cancel a bunch of flights that they had scheduled. They had to cut their staff in half. It was a nightmare for them, and now they just pulled the plug. But I think the most interesting thing is that they were having discussions. They were talking about changing it, retheming it, giving up on the sequels, and instead going to the Mandalorian. But Disney said, no, that's not going to work. And you know why? Because Disney Star Wars is such a disaster that wouldn't have got fans there either. I'm sorry to say, I know people have this crazy feeling about The Mandalorian, it's just so popular. The reality is, after seeing a reaction to Season 3 like they saw, why would they do anything? Mandalorian fans turn on Season 3, a massive drop in quality. We saw the audience score. People despised Mandalorian Season 3 because they finally caught on to the fact that this show is held together by nothing, that the writing is piss poor, that the world building is terrible, that the characters aren't that interesting, and instead they relied wholly on cameos. Well, you kind of ran out of cameos, didn't you? And not only was the audience score bad, the ratings were awful. Mandalorian Season 3 ratings were terrible, despite the fact that it should have been higher with all the hype off everything, with all the buildup, the fact that there were more subscribers on Disney Plus, yet fewer people watched Mandalorian Season 3. We probably didn't talk enough about how much of a failure this truly was for Disney, because maybe it was a little bit unexpected. But Lucasfilm goes to Disney and they say, hey, we're willing to retheme it. Let's try a Mandalorian retheme. Disney says, no. We know that won't help. It is past the point of saving. It is hopeless at this point. Disney's Mandalorian Starcruiser upgrade that never was. Before the Star Wars Galactic Starcruiser ever opened its doors, there was significant backlash, especially in terms of the price tag. Blah, blah, blah. The Galactic Starcruiser also shared Galaxy's Edge, and it's creatively landlocked between Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker. So you can't have any of these other characters in there other than Rey and Kylo Ren, which nobody wants. As reported by The Wrap, Disney was brainstorming ideas to solve these problems, including a retheme to The Mandalorian. While Disney Star Wars sequel trilogy was largely deemed a disappointment, The Mandalorian was a massive success. Well, I don't know about that, especially considering they rejected this idea. Now you got to give a shout out to Drunk 3PO. He had talked about this in the weeks and months leading up, that there were discussions about that they're ready to retheme the Galactic Starcruiser Hotel with Mandalorian stuff in mind. But apparently they sat there and looked at it and said, you know what? We'd rather take the tax credit, because that's what Disney's getting. They're getting a tax credit for writing this entire thing off as a loss, as a flop, as a failure. That's where Disney Star Wars is at. They were ready to say, you know what, sequels suck. Let's do Mandalorian. But they realized that wouldn't have helped it. That wouldn't have made them money either. Because Disney Star Wars is in such a sad state right now that people, quite frankly, don't feel very good about that show either. It's embarrassing, quite honestly, for Lucasfilm, this entire thing. The fact that so much time, effort, and money went into this, only to have the plug pulled on this entire thing just over a year after it was opening. This was supposed to be like the next big thing for Disney, a huge step in a different way of interactive entertainment, blah, blah, blah. Failure, flop. Just like everything, nearly everything that Lucasfilm is involved in, especially when it comes to Disney Star Wars. Nobody wants The Mandalorian. Nobody wants the sequels. Nobody wants Disney Star Wars. It's almost like they want George Lucas's Star Wars. Isn't that crazy? Let me know what you think about all this in the comments section below. The fact that Lucasfilm was ready to admit failure with the sequels and try to retheme, but Disney looked at it and said, nope, that's not going to save it either. That's not going to bring in the money. We might as well just shut down the entire thing. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Smash a like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you later.